Jackson in the key. Kick out. Davenport.
A steal for Kentucky. Ahead to Reeves. Left wing three. Got it. Jackson weaves.
A dunk. Bounces off to Adu and he slams it home.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Student Section. This is a show all about men's SEC basketball, which is college basketball. I do a little bit of NBA stuff in the summer, but we are pretty much in the meat and bones. No, not the meat. I meant meat and potatoes, but we're basically towards the end of the regular season and getting towards March Madness, conference tournaments, that type of stuff, which is usually the most exciting. I have a little hair right here. It's messing. There we go. Which is usually the most exciting for the casual fan and the diehard fans like me and probably most of you guys watching right now. So it's just in a very exciting time. We're starting to get to where teams are really fighting to make that bubble push, that last four in push. They're trying to, escape the last four out type of scenario. But none of that really has any relevance for today. Today's episode, as you can tell by the title, is I am going over my picks for all of the player awards, which includes like Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, that type of stuff, and the All SEC teams, which is going to be like the All SEC first team. We're gonna have the rookie team and then the defensive teams. And just another clarification: all these awards are the SEC awards, are not National College Basketball Awards. So with that being said, I don't have any top five for this week. Which, for those who don't know, top five is just the top 5 plays of the week. I'll probably have some once we start getting into the SEC tournament, maybe college, the March Madness tournament. But you'll see why. I'm going to have highlights of each player that I pick. Hopefully it turns out good, and hopefully I edit it correctly. If not, it's okay. But coming in, that pause. I'm all over the place. Okay. I'm going to start off with player awards, and I'm going to move on to the all SEC teams afterwards, because those might kind of spoil just the list a little bit. So we're going to cover Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Coach of the Year, and then my 2 personal awards that I have made. That they're not official awards, but they're ones that I kind of add because I feel like they're in college basketball. They're a nice little concept to add. We have Newcomer of the Year and Breakout Player of the Year. Which basically Newcomer of the Year is a player who transferred into the conference, like the best player that transferred into the conference. And then Breakout Player of the Year is going to be like a Most Improved Player award, more familiarly. Speaking of which, we're probably going to start with Breakout Player of the Year. I'm going to start off with like the least popular awards and work my way up. So we're going to start off with Breakout Player of the Year. And I'm going to have 3 candidates for each section. So my 3 candidates is Adu Thiero from Arkansas, Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina, and Anthony Robinson II from Missouri. So I'm going to go ahead and be honest real quick. It was really hard for me to find any sort of breakout players this year. There really weren't that many. So Anthony Robinson is not winning this award. He was kind of a stretch. Last season, so he's a sophomore this year. Last season, he averaged 4 points per game. This year, he's right under 10. His steal numbers, he doubled his steal numbers. Assist numbers went from 1 assist per game to 4 assists per game. Rebounding numbers stayed pretty much the same. Well, actually, no, he did double his rebounding numbers. They went from 1.7 to 3.2. He got way more efficient. He went from 20% from 3 to 45%. Went from 50% from 2 to 53%. And then his total field goal percentage went from 36% to 51%. He got much more efficient. It's just the efficiency clearly went up quite a bit, but the counting stats didn't go up enough for him to really compete with these next guys, because you'll see these next guys are some heavy hitters. That's where we have Colin Murray Boyles and Adu Thiero. Colin Murray Boyles last season averaged 10 points per game. He got up to 16.8. His steals went from 1 steal per game to 1.5. His blocks went from 1 to 1.4. His assists went from 1.8 to 2.4. And his rebounds went from 5.7 to 8.4. Efficiency-wise, he went from 0% from 3 last year to 25, which is really not good. Field goal percentage went from 59 to it stayed the same. But the main thing with his statistical jump is going to be games played. Mainly games started. He only started 19 games last year, which cut down his minutes. He only averaged 22 minutes last year. ends up averaging 30 this year. He played about the same amount of games, but I know last year he was battling with an injury, or not injury, with some sort of illness. I don't remember what it was. He spent a lot of last year trying to get back into shape, get healthy. So this year he was able to, really lock in and show what he's capable of. And then the third player is going to be Adu Thero. Last year he averaged 7.2 points per game, got up to 15.6 this year. His steals went from 0.7 to 1.7, blocks went down from 1.1 to 0.8. Assists went from 1.1 to 2.0, and rebounds went from 5.0 to 6.0. He's another case of, games started going from only starting 19 to starting 26 this year. He was also a guy that was kind of battling injury last year as well. It wasn't a sickness like Colin Murray-Boyles, but he was battling. I think it was either a back or a knee. Pretty sure it was a back injury that he was dealing with last year. I think. I hope that's right. But with that being said, my pick for this year's award for Breakout Player of the Year is going to be Adu Thero. Let me go over his stats one more time while I hopefully have highlights playing. Sorry if I don't. But like I said, 15.6 points per game, which is basically a 7-point jump from last year, 8-point jump from last year. Steals went up. He averages one more steal than he did last year. Really one of the better defenders in the league. Super versatile, super athletic around the rim. His mid-range game still leaves a little bit to desire, but this year you really saw an improvement in his aggressiveness. You really saw an improvement in his ability to control an offense, to dissect the defense. And his defensive versatility has kind of always been there, but he really, really showed it off on the perimeter this year. He's a strong guy, can guard pretty much every position. Super athletic, super fun in transition. And that is Adu Thero, Breakout Player of the Year. Moving on to the next award, we have Newcomer of the Year, which is... Okay, do I have these guys' stats up? I don't. Yeah, I do. Hold on. No, I don't. I will get them pulled up real quick while I'm reading off the candidates. The first candidate is going to be Elijah Martin over at Florida. I don't remember where he transferred from FAU. Jason Edwards over at Vanderbilt. Don't know where he came from. Can't remember. And Chaz Lanier over at Tennessee, and I hit some mid-major school. He was another Florida team, Chaz Lanier, I believe. Hold on. Okay. So let me pull up these stats. Forgive me. Okay, cool. Cool. Okay, so for Elijah Martin, he's averaging 14.7 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. I am under the belief that the two Florida guards, being Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton, is the best backcourt in the SEC and maybe all of college basketball, arguably. But I do think it's the best in the SEC. And Elijah Martin is one of those halves to that best backcourt. He's the defender of the half, I would say. But he still, as these numbers show, he goes out there, he puts points up. He has 4.7 rebounds for... He's not a super big guy, but, he's getting rebounds for his size. And then 2.4 assists. He's very active in the offense. I really like what Elijah Martin has done for Florida this year. And Jason Edwards over at Vanderbilt is at 17.2 points per game. So he's averaging a little bit more than Elijah Martin. He's at 1.8 rebounds and 1.4 assists, so he's really not doing much but scoring. But that's what Vanderbilt really needs out of him, so he's not really doing much harm with that. And then Chaz Lanier, he is averaging 17.8 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, and then just one assist flat. So he's also really not doing much. He's not the greatest defender as well. Neither is Jason Edwards. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and announce the award for Chaz Lanier, North Florida. That's where he's from. I knew it was a Florida school. But like I said, he's at that 17 point per game mark. Super efficient I guess for a guard, he's pretty efficient at 42% from the field. 3-point percentage is at 40%, which is also super efficient. Not as good as last year, but he's still super efficient. 2-point percentage is almost at 50%. Effective field goal percentage is at 54%. He's not attempting too many free throws, only at 2.4 per game, but steal numbers at 0.9. He's one of the leading scorers in the entire league. So shout out Chaz Lanier. That is a Newcomer of the Year. Moving on to Coach of the Year. This one, this is probably my favorite award, at least this year, because the three candidates we have for this is Bruce Pearl, Dennis Gates, and Mark Byington. So starting off with Bruce Pearl, Obviously, number one team in the entire league, number one team in the SEC, all of college basketball. At one point, they had like one of the most efficient, or maybe the most efficient offense in the Ken Palm era. Super great defensive team, and obviously, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's the number one team. How much is the coach really doing?" Preseason, I thought they'd be the 5th overall seed in just the SEC, which probably would have left them in like the 12th range nationally ranked. So I didn't. Their roster, you look at it, they have good players. Obviously, they have Janai Broom. They have other good players, but their roster doesn't look as good as this team does on the court. This team looks amazing on the court, and a lot of that is because of Bruce Pearl. He's able to get guys to buy in. He's able to get guys to play unselfishly and play as a team. And then one of the other candidates was Mark Byington. He moves from, where did Mark Byington come from? Oh, this is really bad. Oh my gosh, I can't remember where Mark Byington came from. He came from James Madison. That's right. I knew that. I knew it was a purple jersey. I just couldn't think of the name of the team. Okay, yeah, going back to Mark Byington. So this Vanderbilt team last year was 9-23 total record and 4-14 in conference play, which is, I mean, pretty abysmal. To this year being 20-9 and 8-8 in conference play, with the SEC being one of the, well, like historically the best conference in college basketball. And one more thing to add to that. This is the first time Vanderbilt has ever been ranked in the last 10 years, since the 2014-15 season. So that's something that Mark Byington is really doing. And once again, he built this roster in like 2 weeks. He had a late turnover, replacing their fired head coach from Vanderbilt, putting this team together like pretty ragtag pretty quickly. And there's not really a star player. Like I know, I already mentioned Jason Edwards is putting up numbers, but he's not really a star player. He's kind of around that like Otega Owe kind of range. But the rest of the team really isn't that good. Okay, it's not that they're bad. They're just not as good as some of the other teams in the league, and they've been hooping this year. They're really fun to watch. I love the style of play they play. They don't really have any good one-on-one defenders, but Mark Byington has such a good defensive system where they're so unpredictable. They're super aggressive. They throw a lot of bodies at you. They'll trap off a double team once, or they'll trap off a screen one time. Then the next time they'll hedge it hard. Then they'll switch it. They have a really fun, complex offense, and they love to run. I really like this team. And then Dennis Gates, last season with Missouri, he was 8-24, winless in conference play, being 0-16. To this year, being 21-8 and 10-6 in conference play. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give this award to Dennis Gates. Since he doesn't have any highlights, he'll probably be like a picture of him up on the screen or something. Shout out Dennis Gates, Coach of the Year. Moving on to the next award, we have Six Men of the Year. What's the word I'm looking for? The nominees for this award is going to be Caleb Grill, Chaney Johnson, and Aiden Holloway. So my only requirement for Six Man of the Year is that they have to start less than 5 games all season. That is all season long, not just conference play. They have to start less than 5 games. Aiden Holloway has started 0 games. Chaney Johnson has started 3, but that was because of the Janai Broom injury. If it wasn't for that, I think he'd probably be at 1 or 0. And Caleb Grill only started 1 as well. So Caleb Grill averaging 14.3 points per game, 3.6 assists and 1.1 assist, or 3.6 rebounds and 1.1 assist. He's one of, if not the most efficient shooter in the league. I think he was close to 50% last time I checked from 3. Super elite, just come off the bench and just shoot the ball. Not much of a ball handler. He's going to do a lot of off-ball screen, a lot of off-ball motion, stuff like that. Catch and shoot. Klay Thompson type of shooter. He's had a few duds, but I mean, shooters are going to have duds like that. Chaney Johnson, 10.1 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.6 assists. And then Aiden Holloway is at 12 points per game, 2.0 rebounds, and then 1.8 assists. Aiden Holloway is kind of like that, not to this extent, but like a Jamal Crawford kind of role. Obviously, they have different play styles, but he's different from Caleb Grill, where Caleb Grill comes in to just catch and shoot. Aiden Holloway comes in to create and score. He's not really going to get too many assists. He is involved in the offense, but he's really out there to create shots and get to the rim and score off the bounce. And then with that being said, my pick for Six Man of the Year. Oh, and another thing. I had to pick 6 men off of like the top half teams. Like, I'm not going to pick a 6 man off the bottom teams. They have to be an impactful 6 man on a winning team. With that being said, my pick is going to be Chaney Johnson. The reason I pick him, what are this season his stats are? He's at 0.8 steals, 0.9 blocks, 1.6 assists, 5.1 rebounds, and 10.1 assists. But the reason I pick him is because he's one of those guys that if you have a few starters that aren't performing well, whatever their role is, he can come in and fill that. He's a guy that is super versatile on defense. I think he's their best defender on this team, if you ask me. Sorry, Janai Broom, but I really do think that he's the best defender on this team. He's much more mobile on the perimeter, super strong in the paint, super physical. He's not going to get as many blocks and rebounds, but I think one-on-one defensively and really in a team setting as well, he's a really good defender. He can come in, he can run fast in the fast break, he can be involved in the offense. He can shoot a little bit, not super efficient, only shooting 29% from three, but a pretty decent free throw shooter for his size, 58% from the field. I really like what Chaney Johnson has done for this team, and that is why he is my sixth man of the year. Moving on to Defensive Player of the Year. Nominees. Cameron Matthews. He's at 6.8 rebounds, 0.7 blocks, and 2.5 steals, which is leading the entire league. But he does have 2.8 fouls per game. I think the fouls per game is something that's kind of important to look at. But they're kind of all around the same range, all my nominees. Janai Broom, 10.8 rebounds per game, leading the conference in rebounding. 2.4 blocks, and then 0.8 steals with 2 fouls. And then Colin Murray-Boyles is at 8.4 rebounds, 1.4 blocks, 1.5 steals, and he's at 2.5 fouls. So, with that being said, this is going to shock some people. I've kind of already alluded to who I'm not going to pick because of my last one. I'm not going to pick Janai Broom because I think there's more to defense than just rebounding. Yes, the block numbers there. I'm not going to ignore the block numbers. I think he's leading the league in blocks. But he's not very good on the perimeter. I've seen him get blown by a lot. His communication on help side is really, really bad. Like in switch scenarios, I see him get like in a lot of like miscommunications. He does this thing that really bothers me where if he gets blown by or if he causes a miscommunication, he'll like look at the coach and throw up his hands and like try to like blame another player. I've never seen him take accountability for a misrotation, letting a guy blow by you. He does that a lot. I think he has potential to be so good, but he's so lackadaisical in defense. He reminds me a lot like of a LeBron James, where like they'll just be like let someone run right by them and throw their hands up at someone else, and that sort of mentality on the defensive end, which is why I really want to give it to Cam Matthews. I gave it to him last year. I love he's like the perfect defender. That's pause. He's super strong, super long wingspan. He can guard everyone on the perimeter. He's strong enough to guard fours. He's not really tall enough to guard fives. Leading the league in steals. I'm going to give it to Colin Murray-Boyles, though. Let me pull up his stats. I mean, I've already kind of read off his defensive stats. I don't really have any super great like efficiency numbers, like advanced analytics for him because I don't have it pulled up. But Colin, he is elite, bro. Like he is one of the best defenders, I think, in college. He's really good. He's really, really good. He can defend. I genuinely think he can defend all 5 positions. He's super strong. He's only 6'7", but he looks huge out on the court. Like he looks like he's 7 foot out there. He can guard centers. He can guard point guards. He's quick enough to keep up with them. He obviously can't guard them all game long. He's super, super, super good. I really love what Colin Murray-Boyles can do. Super great team defender as well. Super great with rotation. Super good at defensive communication. Is a good rim protector. Is a good paint protector. He does everything on the defensive end. He reminds me a lot of Draymond Green in the way that he defends. He just does everything on the court defensively. He's super quick with his feet. He can guard on the perimeter. He does everything. I'm gonna stop glazing Colin. But yeah, that's my guy for Defensive Player of the Year. Moving on to the next award, we have Freshman of the Year. Nominees is Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, and Asen Newell. Asen Newell's averaging 15.2 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, and 1 assist. Jeremiah Fears, 15.9 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4.1 assists. Trey Johnson, 20.6 points per game, which is leading the SEC. 3.1 rebounds. I think he's tied for total points as well. I think 555. I think that's correct. He's tied with Mark Sears. I know that. And then 2.6 assists, I think, because I already said that. This is really tough because the obvious answer would be Trey Johnson leading the league in scoring. But he doesn't do much other than that. Like, he's not really a great defender. He's not really great off the ball. He does put good rim pressure. I do believe he's a true three level scorer, but he didn't put enough rim pressure, if that makes sense. He settled for a lot of jump shots, which he makes them. He's a good free throw shooter, good at getting fouls, but he's not the greatest playmaker. He gets a lot of assists, but that's because his usage rate is through the roof. But he's a decent playmaker, but he's not a great playmaker, if that makes sense. Jeremiah Fears, on the other hand, he's not averaging as many points, but he's averaging more rebounds. He's doubling his assist numbers. Jeremiah Fears is the point guard, the key to this Oklahoma offense, which they haven't been good in conference play, but he is the leader of that offense. And then Asa Newell is another very versatile guy. I've always compared him to Derek Lively with the Mavericks from Duke. Super versatile defender. Not the strongest, but he's super athletic, super great around the rim, and super good on the offensive end. He's super good in pick and roll situations, pick and pop on the mid range. You can run the offense kind of through him. Like he has a perimeter game, but he's not going to be in the same way that Colin Murray-Boyles can run the offense. Which I don't even know why I'm mentioning him right now. That's too much glaze, bro. I'm sorry, but this one's really tough. I kind of want to give it like a 3-way tie. Like, I do believe Trey Johnson is going to win it, but I don't think he's the most deserving. The only problem is all these guys, it's hard to say, like, if one of these teams was super good, then I could pick that person, but all these teams are really bad. Like, Georgia sucks, Oklahoma sucks, Texas sucks. So it's not like these guys are playing super good and on a winning team. That would be the way I'd pick. It could honestly be any three of these guys. I'm going to give it to Jeremiah. All right, so I'm actually going to do a voiceover because I originally picked Jeremiah Fears for my freshman of the year, but I've been watching a lot of these Trey Johnson highlights. I'm definitely changing my mind. Just offensively, he's just a true, pure 3-level scorer. Can pull up super quick, trigger from 3, has the ability to slash and put pressure on the rim. But most importantly, I think the most impressive part of his game is going to be that mid-range, his ability to post up, put someone on his back and pause. But turn around, hit fading shots from all over the court, elbow jumpers along the baseline from the block spot. Floaters, hooks, whatever it is, his mid-range bag is really, really deep, and I think that might be the most underrated part of his scoring aspect. Obviously, he's an elite three-point shooter, can pull up off the dribble, off the catch, can shoot it from pretty much anywhere, unlimited range. He's a really exciting prospect. I can't wait to see where he ends up in the NBA and just how he performs overall in the NBA. Super excited, and now I'm moving on. Thank you. Of the year, we have Walter Clayton Jr., Mark Sears, and Janai Broome. I feel like this one's obvious. I'm still going to read off everyone's stats. Walter Clayton Jr. at 16.9 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, and 4-point assists on one of the teams with the greatest differential rating between offensive and defensive rating. You look at Florida, their net rating is what I'm talking about. They had the second highest net rating, just slightly behind Auburn. He's the best scorer on the team, best player on the team, the leading guard. He's one half of the best backcourt that I was talking about earlier with Elijah Martin. Super, super good player. I really like Walter Clayton. Mark Sears, 19.1 points per game, 3.0 assists, and then 3 rebounds and 5 assists. Sorry, I had those stats backward. Playing for an Alabama team who's on one of the best high-pace offenses. He's the head of that engine. He's a great decision maker, a decent defender, not the greatest, but super elite scorer, can score all 3 levels truly. He reminds me, everyone's going to say Jalen Brunson because they're lefties, but they really do have such a similar play style. Super strong, big body, works out of the mid-range, can shoot the 3. He is a little more of a 3-point shooter than Jalen Brunson, but still very similar play styles. And then Janai Broome at 18.4 points per game, 10.8 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. This one's obvious. I'm going to go with I did say Defensive Player of the Year. Sorry, I just got way out of track. I'm going to go with the National Player of the Year, Janai Broome. At least that's who I'm going to pick for the National Player of the Year. As I already mentioned, he's a 6'10", 240 big man. I have a few complaints about him, but this is not the time. This is about awards, right? 18.4 points per game. I already mentioned that. 2.0. No, that's a different number. Sorry. 0.8 steals, 2.4 blocks, 3.3 assists, 10.8 rebounds. I think he's also leading the conference in offensive rebounding numbers at 3.6 per game. Field goal percentage, shooting 50% from the field. The only really big knock is going to be his 29% three-point shooting, and he does take a lot of really bad, kind of just confusing shots. This is his lowest shooting percentage since he's been at Auburn from 3. He just takes a lot of questionable step-back threes, just really early shot clock, a lot of bonehead shots from three. But other than that, his numbers, you can't argue with the numbers. You can't argue with the facts. Super great player. Shout out Janai Broom, Player of the Year. Shout out Auburn. So those are all the player awards. Moving on to the all conference teams. Starting off, I'm not going to give any stats for this because it's just too many stats to go through. My all SEC first team is going to be Mark Sears, Walter Clayton, Chaz Lanier, Trey Johnson, and Janai Broom. Look through this list if you want. If you disagree, a lot of these I could definitely see them being interchangeable. Excuse me. But the all SEC second team, we have Zakai Ziegler, Josh Hubbard, Jason Edwards, Colin Murray-Boyles, and Jalen Moore. That is the second team. And once again, with all these teams, I try to give a representation to each team. There are going to be a few teams left out, but I really try to get every team involved. I do want to say a few things real quick before I move on. I wanted to put Colin Murray-Boyles in the first team. I mean, you guys know that's my guy. But it's the team success, South Carolina being the worst team in the conference, almost winless, but they do have 2 wins as of now. So I just couldn't put him in the first team with those other guys that are all. I mean, Trey Johnson's up there, but like I said, leading the league in points. You can't argue with that. But yeah, that's one of the reasons Colin Murray-Boyles isn't up there. And I think the third team is probably where we're going to find the most problems. But the third team is going to be Jeremiah Fears, Wade Taylor, Adut Thero, Asa Newell, and Mark Mitchell. So with all of those teams I just mentioned, I tried to put at least 2 forwards and 3 guards/wings. It was really hard to find forwards. That's why Mark Mitchell makes this list. He has an amazing year. Don't get me wrong. But there are a few other guys that you could possibly see. Like you could see a Cam Carter make this list. But team success, and he's not a forward. I had a really hard time finding forwards that could fit this list. But yeah, those are my 3 all SEC teams. If you have any complaints, just let me know in the comments down below, and I will let you know why I picked these guys. And like I said, I'm still pretty open-minded to this list. I could see these things changing. I could see a Jeremiah Fears making it over as Zakai Ziegler. But his assist numbers are Zakai Ziegler has insane assist numbers, assist to turnover ratio, super great defensive guard, and he's the key cog of the offense, if you will, in terms of generating offense, not actually scoring. You guys know what I mean. But yeah, those are my 3 teams. Moving on to the defensive teams. All SEC defensive first team, we have Zakai Ziegler, Elijah Martin, Cameron Matthews, Colin Murray-Boyles, and Janai Broom. Elijah Martin doesn't have the same statistical numbers as these guys. Like Zakai Ziegler and Cameron Matthews are the top leaders in steals. Colin Murray-Boyles and Janai Broom are up there in blocks and rebounds. But like I said, Elijah Martin, he's been the key defender to the number 1 defense, or I guess it's probably the number 2 defense in the league, if I'm thinking correctly. Yeah, Florida's the number 2 defense in the league, and he's a big part of that on the perimeter. But yeah, those are my defensive first team. Defensive second team, we have Anthony Robinson. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. Anthony Robinson II, Sean Padula, which are both the 2 top 5. They have 2 top 5 steal leaders. Zurich Phelps is also up there. He's another key defender for that Texas A&M defense, which is really tough, grinded out. And then Felix Akpara, and then Alex Condon. Once again, I tried to get 2 forwards and 3 wing/guards, which is why you get an Alex Condon in here and a Felix Akpara instead of some other guys. But I really wanted to make these like a real roster. I didn't want to just put in 5 guards or just 5 rebounding big men. I kind of really wanted to spread it out. That's also why a guy like Zurich Phelps and Elijah Martin make it in, is because of that guard, pool that I would need. So those are my defensive teams. Shout out to those guys. And then freshman team. This one, it got a little tough towards the end of the list, but we have Boogie Flan, who the reason he wasn't in the freshman of the year is just because of games missed. He missed a lot of games. But Boogie Flan, Jeremiah Fears, Trey Johnson, Asa Newell, Santos Surreal. Once again, there really weren't any good big men from the freshman class, which is why you see Santos Surreal in. And then the freshman team list is usually 8 players, so I did include 8 players. I don't know if they're going to change it this year with the 2 new teams. I would assume not. But the other 3 guys are going to be LeBaron Filan, Todd Pettiford, and Victorious Miller, all on the All-SEC freshman team. So Boogie Flan, yes, he did miss a lot of games, but he's averaging like 15 points per game, has one of the second highest assists per game, and like the 3rd highest assist to turnover ratio. Trey Johnson, already mentioned, leading the league in scoring. Jeremiah Fears, I already talked about him. He's going to be my freshman of the year. Asa Newell, another guy, is up there. Santos Surreal has a lot of rebounds, a lot of blocks. Offensive numbers aren't really there, but there are just no other centers to really fill that spot. LeBaron Filan has looked pretty good with Alabama. Tahad Pettiford has been one of the best scorers on that Auburn team. Numbers-wise, don't show it, but he does take and make a lot of just really big, timely shots. And Victorious Miller is another high scorer. That's another guy that kind of made the list just because there wasn't really any better options to pick. Like, I'm trying to think of other freshmen. Like, I thought about Carter Knox. He just didn't have the right numbers compared to Victorious Miller, and I didn't want to put two Arkansas players whenever Arkansas doesn't have the greatest team. So, that is all on my list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, if you really don't agree with something I said or feel like I left a player off one of these teams or one of the nominees for the player awards, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. And I also tried to include every team. I believe I did. I really think I did. But I'll see you guys in the next one. My next episode, I'm probably going to release this Friday. It's going to be me reviewing, or I'm going to do my final power ranking prediction. And then I'm going to look at my very first power ranking and kind of compare like where I went wrong, where I went right, things like that. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.